Hi, thank you and welcome to Chalk Talk with Chuck. This is me coming at you. Just wanted to remind you that I've done some other interviews in the past. I know I haven't been here in a while, but I did an interview with my cousin Jack. That's awesome. Great story about him doing some sheep hunting. You got to listen to it. There's great stuff in there. Okay. Jack's an awesome guy. He's a vagabond. If you're looking to live a camping lifestyle, if you want to look up to somebody who's doing the Chris McCandless thing, go and listen to this guy's podcast. Okay. That I did with him 2 weeks ago. And then I want to remind you that I did an interview with Pat and McGee of the Nude Party. That was really good. I did an interview with my sister on pop culture, if you want to listen to that. And I also have an interview from the from the beginning of me doing this with Craig Jack about the Utah Jazz and about mid-season form. I think it was around the All-Star break. That was awesome. Go give that a listen. And thank you to everyone who does listen. I appreciate it. You know, I am never going to ask you to like and subscribe. Never going to do it. And that's not me asking you to do it and trying to be coy or like cheeky or sexy about it. This is just me announcing that I'm not going to do that. All I'm going to ask you to do is listen. And if you like it, that's great. And if you don't, and you know me, because you're probably listening to this and you know me, text me and tell me how I could do better. And if you liked it, text me and tell me that you liked it, or email me or whatever. But yeah, thanks for listening. It's been awesome. I really enjoyed doing this, and I hope to continue to bring you guys content in the coming weeks as, stuff starts to slow down for me in my life. But yeah, go listen to those other podcasts. Thanks. Chalk Talk with Chuck. I don't know what installment this is, but thank you for everyone who's still here, still listening, fought through it. I know I've been gone 2 weeks. Podcast has been somewhat, irregular, but I moved, took the LSAT today, just been busy with life, had a wedding, hey, life happens, guys, and sometimes you just gotta fucking plow through it and get to it, and I finally had the time to sit down and do this, and I don't want to bring shitty content, right? Like, I've had time to sit down for an hour and bust out a quick podcast, but I don't want to just throw down some half-baked thoughts or, and you know what? It sounds like shit in here. I'm going to go in the closet. All right, in the closet. Holy fuck, the audio quality is better in here. Now I'm in the closet too. All right, in the closet. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, you know what? Shit's going on. I got fucking work. I had the LSAT. I had weddings. It's just busy time, right? It's also the summer. Getting out, doing me. So haven't been able to get to the podcast every day, or not every day, but every week like I like to, right? But I'm here now, and man, has it just been awesome. And I haven't done sports in a while. Did a couple of kind of offshoot podcasts, one with my buddy Jack. It's probably been about a month since I've done sports stuff. Lots happened. Phil won a major. The Jazz made it to the second round of the playoffs. The Lakers were eliminated from the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is forcing his way out of Green Bay. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces. And I'm going to just kind of go through football and basketball, but I want to start with basketball because it's what's going on and I think people are talking about. Also, the Euros are going on. Holly has a friend. She wants to come on and do the Euros. Maybe I'll have them on. I want to try to just kind of bust out these next couple of weeks. I have so much content that I want to get to that's been stirring in the old cranium. But the first thing is the NBA and what's kind of going on right now. And I think there's been a narrative that's been driving me nuts that people who aren't fans of sports but are fans of entertainment are talking about in the NBA. And that's this whole oh man, no LA, the Knicks are out. The NBA's got to be pissed. It's Milwaukee, Utah, Philadelphia, Phoenix, and Atlanta. I know the Clippers are in there, and we're going to get to the Clippers-Jazz thing, trust me. But, hey, fuck you? What kind of take is that? As a professional sports fan, what kind of take is that? Let's talk about that for a minute. People saying this. Max Kellerman. People online. You know what? Like, you act like you're these big die-hard NBA. I watch every night. I love good basketball. Good basketball's a good thing, right? Fuck you then. You want to know what I want? The best out there every night. That's what I want. I want the best teams that are playing the best basketball playing against each other. And yeah, the second round hasn't been great. Okay? I'm sorry the East isn't that good. All right? I'm sorry. I'm sorry the Hawks beat New York. But guess what? The Hawks are fighting. Each series is 2-2. The only series that isn't 2-2 right now is the Phoenix series, which was a sweep where the MVP of the league was on the team that got swept. So there's good basketball. It's just they're kind of coming in these weird blowouts. Brooklyn blew Milwaukee out twice. Then Milwaukee played in a dogfight. A game that looked like it was being played in 1995. Right? Two teams barely, I don't even think a team hit 90. Watch that full game. Really interesting game. Almost seemed like the refs had officiated Milwaukee back into the series, and then Milwaukee trips on themselves, or I should say Kyrie trips on the Bucks, but Milwaukee trips on themselves now, and like tonight, it looks like Milwaukee's going up 3-0 or 3-2. And it doesn't look like Brooklyn's really got an answer, and that series got really interesting really quickly. And then you had the Philadelphia series where for the first 3 games of that series, I know Atlanta won the first game. It felt a little like first game fluky, what's going on with JoJo. And then Joel Embiid comes back in the next 2 games 2 and 3, and plays phenomenal basketball. And it just kind of turns out like, hey, look, this Philadelphia team is that good, and maybe they're going to be the team to slow down Brooklyn. And then Joel Embiid just doesn't look 100 last night, and the Hawks storm back and they win a game. Now you're 2-2, you're going into a pivotal game 5 in Philadelphia where we don't know what the situation with Joel Embiid's going to be. So there's a lot of kind of moving pieces, right? That's good shit. And you know what? The games have been good. The best series has been the Jazz Clippers series, or it was for the first 2 games. The last 2 games haven't been so entertaining. Jazz looked really good, really promising, right? The Donovan Mitchell stuff is unbelievable. And, the Jazz is really where people are getting, it feels like people take swings at Utah all the time. And I've addressed this before, but, fuck you. There are just real people who live there who have real regular lives. And they're real fans of this team. And they care about this team. Just like you care about your team. Right? So don't be an asshole. Now it looks like there's no way Utah can win unless Mike Conley comes back, because the way Paul George has been playing and the way that Kawhi's been playing. Do you know for the first time in their career of playing with each other, both guys went over 30? Weird stat. But, those guys are coalescing. They're playing really well. And without Conley, it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen for Utah, which is unbelievably unfortunate. Because you look at the way that it's shaken out, and it's probably going to be Milwaukee, Philadelphia, because I don't think Brooklyn's going to get healthy in time. And unless KD goes off and wins a couple games by himself, which isn't out of the question, he's Kevin Durant, I don't think it's going to happen. Harden, I know he's playing tonight, but he didn't even have a point in the first quarter. He certainly doesn't look 100%. I mean, 100%'s out of the question. 65, 70% maybe. But at that, Harden's real game is physical. It's getting to the rim. It's creating separation. It's drawing fouls, which he's not going to be banging into bodies with a hamstring injury. So where do you go from there if you're Brooklyn? You just really got to lean into the Durant thing and hope your role players play well. But man, if Milwaukee steals one tonight and they go back home, it's not going to be great for Brooklyn. And Milwaukee's done something. It's interesting. I don't get the Giannis Antetokounmpo taking threes thing. I can't figure it out. And I really don't get the Giannis thing, period. Why aren't we setting screens for this guy on the baseline trying to get him looks in the low post? You could have something really interesting there where like Brook Lopez is spreading the floor as a big man, but Giannis is so bad in the pick and roll. His pick and roll numbers are terrible. But you could do something where you're getting screens from Brook Lopez to come up and get the ball at the mid post so you could back a guy down into the low post and score if you're Giannis. But Giannis has this thing where he gets the ball at the free throw line, and I get it, he's super physical, he's super dominant, but he dribbles backwards to go forwards because he wants to build momentum. And like that's his move. He doesn't have like this wide array of moves. Now he's so physical that he's pushing them into games, and he's a top 10 player, and he's a good player. But it's skill-wise, it's just not there. And I think that's where the NBA playoffs really separate the goods from the greats, and it's the guys with the moves, right? You got to have a bag of tricks that you can kind of dig into. I mean, unless you're Kevin Durant. And he's got bags of tricks. I mean, the guy's got handles. The guy can pull up from anywhere. His turnaround is pretty nice. But, I'm not scared of Giannis's turnaround jumper. Hell, teams are sagging off of him. It's so easy to guard the pick and roll for him because teams are sagging off into the paint on the pick because it's like, I don't have to respect any of this. So, yeah, I mean, and I just think that's where the separation comes. And Giannis has, like, the spin move thing, I guess. You'll see him do it, but he got caught in it tonight with Jeff Green in the first quarter and got in foul trouble. So I don't know where you go with Milwaukee as far as like the next rounds go, because you're going to run into Joel Embiid at some point, who's a more skilled scorer in the low post. But man, those are two teams that are built pretty similarly. Matisse Thybulle's been great. And the Simmons thing is weird. He had 4 points the other day. 4 points in a playoff win. I mean, it was a win, but man, that's your guy. 4 points. His game becomes particularly. It becomes particularly noticeable that his game is not suitable for the playoffs very quickly. Man, he's got nothing as far as the quote unquote bags of tricks go. Great distributor, sure, and I get it. You're getting the numbers, the 11 rebounds, 13 assists, but you're getting 4 points or 11 points. Guys, scoring matters. And I know the defensive stuff from him is pretty great on the perimeter, but here's my theory, and I think I'll get into this too with Rudy Gobert. Defense is worth a lot, and it's worth something for sure. In interrupting shots and, bugging guys on the perimeter is worth something. But in this NBA, guys get numbers anyway. Doesn't matter. Ben Simmons could play the best defense he wants against Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant can still get 30. Ben Simmons can play the best defense he wants against Steph Curry. Steph Curry can still get 30. Because the odds are just tilted so heavily in the favor of the offensive player that it's great that you're providing this defense, and it's great that you can bug a guy and you can get a guy out of the element, and it's a momentum thing, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, guys can still get numbers when they need to. And they do. And it can be detrimental. Trae Young is proving that. Trae Young is getting numbers. He had 18 assists, 30 points, right? And Ben Simmons is playing good defense. Matisse Thybulle is playing good defense. They have the best perimeter backcourt in the NBA, maybe. Defensively. Certainly not offensively, but defensively, certainly, right? And it just doesn't seem to me like it's clicking. It doesn't seem to me like it's transferring very well into playoff basketball. So I don't know how far you go to risk the defense for the offense thing. And the Jazz are the ultimate example of that, right? The second best player on the Utah Jazz is Rudy Gobert. And I know Jazz fans will come at you with the metrics saying he's the best. Donovan Mitchell is the best player on that team. And you know why? Because he can score. And he can do it by himself. And Rudy Gobert has been nothing but absent for these past 2 games. I don't know where he is. And this happens to him in the playoffs. Guys like Clint Capella and Zubac and a couple of these other, and Vucevic gave him trouble, but they outplay him because Rudy's game, for how great it is in the post, it's not that physical. His thing is shot interruption in shot prevention, right? There's the things that don't show up on the stat sheet, like, Paul George going down for a drive that should be a wide open layup, but he double clutches because, Rudy Gobert could stick a limb out, right? Or, Kawhi looks at a lane, but he doesn't take it, and he pulls up for the mid-range because, Gobert could be down there, and that's just that shot's contested. Or a guy shoots a floater a couple extra inches because he got to get it over Gobert's arms. All those things that he does, really good. Not very physical, right? And then on the offensive end, Rudy Gobert puts the ball below his waist for a 7-footer far too many times. His offensive intelligence is not that high. Right? And then you're playing this chess match in your head where you're going, our second best player is this guy who by himself can't get a bucket, right? If you feed him in the low post, he doesn't have a move. You have to get him in the pick and roll. Okay, so he's not even a third scoring option on the offense. So where do we got to go? We got to go Bogdanovich, who's pretty inconsistent. And also, I love Bogey. He's a good scorer. And he showed that, especially at the end of the year, where he's scoring 30 without Rudy on the floor, all these things, right? Or without Donovan on the floor. He really carried the offense through those periods where we were missing Donovan and Conley, and there was like weird mixtures, and Bogdanovich was a steady hand for us. But man, he's got some really poor decision-making skills. He'll get the ball in a fast break or like on a 3v2 and pull up. I'm like, God, dude, when it goes in, it's so nice, but it's a no yes shot. Shout out to Bill Simmons. But you're going, no. Oh yes, okay, it went in. But a lot of the times I'm just going, no. What the fuck are you doing? There's 2 minutes left in the game. There's 25 seconds on the shot clock, and you're taking a pull-up 3 with a 6-point lead. What's going on here? Come on. Let's think about the game at a higher level than that. And then he makes these cross-court passes, and he just misses guys. I've seen him make like 3 or 4 cross-court passes that are just misses out of bounds. And you're going, what the fuck was that? Just swing it. There's 15 seconds on the shot clock. I know you're looking to get that guy. And I know that guy might be there, but like, what are we doing? If you're not guaranteeing you're getting that pass, he does the over-the-head, two-handed, tries to zip it across, and it always is to the left or to the right. And if you're not hitting that guy square in the chest to have him hit a jumper, that pass ain't worth it. Right? Because if he's got to take the hesitant dribble, you're already out of the swing anyway. Skip pass didn't do anything for you. So, you got to go to Bogdanovich, you got to go to Clarkson because Conley's out. Now, if you have Conley out there, it changes the story because his pick and roll stuff is nice. And he's got that right-handed floater. So he's got a lot to work with when it comes down to it, in that offensive scenario, and it really takes a lot of pressure off of Donovan. But, man, like Clarkson, he's good, but his pick and roll stuff isn't that great, right? Because he's a terrible distributor. Or he's not looking to distribute. I can't speak to his distribution skills because I never see it. But he's just not looking to do it. He's looking to score. And they did a lot, and kudos to Quinn Snyder for figuring this out with him, but it's all off ball. It's all off ball, especially when Donovan's on the court. You're not getting these like Clarkson minutes where he's holding the ball for 10 seconds in the shot clock. It's all off ball, catch and shoot. Looks really nice. And then I got to give it to the Clippers. I don't want to give it to the Clippers because I can't stand Paul George. And because I don't like the fabric of their team. And when I say that, I mean they just purchased this team. It has no ride or dies. They didn't develop any of this talent. They just kind of bought it and brought it together and hoped it worked. Kind of packaged up this little cute thing and they're like, here, we're going to win. It's very inorganic compared to what the Jazz have done, right? They're kind of this perfect evil for the Jazz. The Jazz have just worked and grinded and built through the draft and finally have talent and done nice things in free agency where you have these guys that you feel really connected to that aren't superstars, but they're good. And then you go over to the Clippers and it's like, yeah, well, we've got Pat Bev and 2 dudes that we signed in the same offseason that had been talking the whole time who are, quote unquote superstars. I don't know if I can call Paul George a superstar. He's a good player. He's not great. But Kawhi Leonard, who's arguably top 3 in the NBA. And then, a bunch of veterans who came here because they want to win another ring, right? You got Rondo there and Batum there and Morris there and all these guys who are there literally just, hey, Kawhi's there and so's Paul George, so maybe I can win a ring. And, that's how teams build themselves. It's an appeal, right? But man, that's fucking bullshit compared to what the Jazz have been doing to build a program, build a culture. And they're the perfect sort of villain in the middle here. Because next is Phoenix, who's built just like the Jazz, in my opinion. I know that, people will be like, well, they got Chris Paul, but no. Like, they've got the Booker, Ayton, Mikal Bridges, the whole thing, right? Like, they've done the same thing that the Jazz have done, and they finally found their quarterback, right? Their point guard, their guy, to help them push the team over into the next level. So, like, when the Jazz collide with them, it's like this collision of culture that I want to see so badly. And I don't know if I'm going to get it because I don't know if Conley's going to be there, and I don't know if Donovan's 100, and I don't know if the Jazz can figure out a way to stop. There are 3 great players in this series, and 2 of them are Clippers right now. There are 3 stars, and 2 of them are Clippers, and one of them is a Jazz guy. And if Donovan doesn't score 40, are they going to win if Conley's not playing? No. I mean, they're just not. And I mean, man, I'm really like sucking Conley's dick right now. Like, he's going to save the world for the Jazz, but there's got to be someone else who can carry the load. And it's not Bogdanovich, and it's not Clarkson, and it's not Joe Ingles. And all 3 of those guys are better when Conley's on the court. And the Jazz's best backcourt, no matter what you tell me, is Mitchell and Conley. And it just provides so much because you can bring Ingles off the bench. And it helps guys like Royce O'Neal get into rhythm. And guys like Royce O'Neal and guys like Bogdanovich and guys like Joe Ingles are going to play better in Utah. So the Jazz are going to be better at home, and they don't have to win a game on the road, which is crucial. They just have to win these next 2 at home. So, I mean, I'm fired up about that series. I just really went off on it. But, it's tough for me. I mean, I love the Jazz, and it just feels like this was the year. And if we can't do it right now, when are we going to get it done? And you start evaluating that stuff like, okay, what can Gobert really do for us? Because I can't bring him up offensively. I can't put him in an offensive breath. And he's not helping shut down these guards, man. So, we'll see. It's been a great series. It's going to continue to be good. The NBA has been good. I mean, the Jokic stuff is great. How about the Suns and 4 guy? Just beating the living shit out of 2 Denver fans. And then telling them Suns are going to win in 4. Man, that's some fucking cold-blooded shit, dude. Some cold-blooded shit. To just wail on a dude's face and then just have the mind to be like, oh, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to talk shit on his team. I just beat the living shit out of this dude. I got to let him know that my team's going to beat his. Man. I don't know if I could ever get in that headspace. Love to know what it's like, though. Buy that guy a beer, man. I want to know what started the fight. I don't know. I mean, but Jesus. And hey, fans, stop fighting in the stands, man. It's just an assault charge. What are we doing, man? What in the world? Can we cut it out? So the playoffs have been good. The NBA playoffs are awesome, man. The Luka stuff was so good in the first round. Oh, man, I was praying for the fucking Mavericks to win. And people keep giving me this, and you know what? I hope I take shit for this, but I don't care. I don't care what my team's route is to winning an NBA Finals. I want the stress-free environment. And I didn't get it, man. People were like, oh, you don't want them to just play the Mavericks and the Nuggets and the Hawks in the finals and win a title. People will say it's not worth it. I don't give a fuck who they play on the way there. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, let it be the 8th seed or the bottom seed in each conference, the 16th seed in each conference, dude. I don't care. You know what everybody talks about? How Toronto won the title. They don't talk about how Golden State lost everybody. No one talks about how you got it once you get it. You just got to get it. Right? I don't care if the Jazz played, the worst teams in the NBA all the way to the title. They made the playoffs. They made it there. We beat them. Look, if you're a fan and you're like, yeah, man, I really just want to play the Suns this year. It's like, you're fucking mentally ill. It's a 7-game series. I don't know who's going to win that. It scares the living shit out of me. I don't want to play the Suns. I want to play Denver. Pretty sure we can beat them. I mean, there's a reason Denver didn't make the next round, but fuck, I'd have preferred to play them. So, call me what you want. I just want a ring. I'll worry about playing the tough teams the second time around. Yeah, that's like my NBA takes. The first round was decent. The Jazz played pretty well against Memphis, I guess. Mitchell made all the worlds of difference. Uh, Milwaukee handled their business. I think Philadelphia won in 5. Uh, Happy the Wizards got one under the belt there. Man, that Wizards team is constructed really poorly, and it's not looking bright, and the future is not great. I mean, they bring back Scott Brooks, and I don't have much comment on Scott Brooks other than that he's like the worst subbing coach in the NBA, but seems like a really nice guy. And you know what? That the fact that Wizards team was even in the playoffs this year is a miracle. So I guess give him the contract. The Hawks beat the Knicks, and the Knicks thing. I love it. Basketball's back in New York. The Knicks are competing. Tibbs won Coach of the Year, which I totally disagree with. As you can guess, I wanted it to go to Quinn. But those kinds of things, it's like that's just a big market play and its influence. Julius Randle's getting MVP votes. The guy can't get out of the first round. He can't even get through a double team. He's not even a primary scorer, right? But I was happy for New York. Brooklyn handled Boston despite the Tatum 50-point game. Good game from Tatum. Boston's a mess. I don't know how you fix that. I think there's a billion ways you can go through it. What's weird is like ever since I started this podcast, and I don't even talk about the Celtics ever, I've been getting these Boston Celtics like rumor mill pages on my Instagram. Like, fuck it, I'll follow them. I'll see what these guys are doing. There's about 400 billion trades every day about like who they can get to flip out of Kemba Walker, which is hilarious. Hey, Boston, guess what? Stick to a point guard. Doesn't pay to trade your point guard every year, dude. They're the quarterback of your team. That or start making Tatum the primary ball handler. I don't know, like, when you have good point guard play, it makes the world a difference because it's the guys who are setting your offense up, right? And Boston just went through like this revolving door of point guards, and it's their fault because they trade Isaiah and they get rid of Rozier and they bring in Kyrie and they get rid of Kyrie and they bring in Walker. Now they're getting rid of Walker. It's like, you want to know what's not good for a young core? A revolving door at the point guard position, right? That and not getting any rebounds from your center. But your center's position on the offensive side of the ball is all dependent on how your point guard plays. And they just couldn't find a good match there. So, Boston, figure it out. And, the West shook out a little funky just because the Lakers came in as like the heavy favorites to win it all. And AD goes down, and it's just like that team was just emotionally fucked after that. And, LeBron, this is the first year where I felt LeBron's age. And I went, damn, this dude's old. And it's not like it used to be. Because young LeBron, he wins that series. Hell, LeBron 3 years ago wins that series. But this year, it wasn't there, man. He's coming off an injury himself. He's making comments in the media like, I'm probably never going to be that guy again. It was clear that he needed Davis. And Davis wasn't there. And, I've gotten in arguments with my friends. Look, Davis isn't there a lot, man. Davis's stretch of health is questionable. I know he wins the ring last year. But I think his health holds him back, especially when it starts to come down to the narrative of, like, where does he land in your top 10? Because he's not that high up on mine. Who are the guys you'd start taking? I'd take Dame Dalla over him, man, just because Dame's going to be out there. Now, I get it. He's 7 foot, and he can get a bucket when he wants to get a bucket, but he's just not healthy ever, man. Ever. And that's not his fault. I don't think, unless there's a report that comes out that like AD just doesn't take care of his body. But when you're that big, shit happens. But at some point, I'm gonna write an article about how I think the unicorn thing's overrated. Just because the Karl Anthony Towns thing didn't work out, the Porzingis thing didn't really work out. It doesn't look like the AD thing's gonna work out unless you can really get him another dominant player to play next to him. But like, the whole point of getting a guy like this is that, hey, no matter what, no matter how bad we are, we're going to at least be a top 5 seed or whatever, or at least that's how people treat him. Like, if everyone's putting AD at the end of last year in the top 3 players, right, list, and my idea of a top 3 player is if there are good role pieces around you, hell, even decent role pieces around you, you're making the playoffs, right? Or you're at least doing what Steph did this year. and like you're really scratching and clawing and you're like on the brink, right? But man, there are a lot of years in New Orleans AD wasn't there. And maybe it was AD's not healthy enough to be there. But then, hey, health is a factor. Penny Hardaway is in nobody's top whatever because he couldn't stay healthy. T-Mac, one of the great tragedies of health. Right? And you don't blame the player. They're sick, they're nasty, but they had the injury bug their whole career. And that's kind of how I feel about AD right now, man. At least he got the ring. But I feel bad for him. Guy can't stay healthy, man. Can't stay healthy. Man, the NFL. We're at this point in the year, right, where the NFL's like kind of boring. We're getting into OTAs. We're getting into like mandatory mini camps, stuff like that. And today, a weird report came out to me. Or a report that came out today struck me as weird, I should say. Because this guy's like, Tua Tagovailoa has thrown 5 picks in minicamp. And the internet lost its fucking mind. You want to know what I've never seen a report on? How many interceptions are thrown by a guy at the first day of minicamp? Never seen it. Okay, now, that either means that there are never picks thrown on the first day of minicamp, or there are guys throwing picks all the time and it doesn't matter and we're just focused on Tua because everybody wants to burn this guy at the stake. I don't like to get into things like this, really. What I want to talk about isn't Tua Tagovailoa throwing 5 picks, but I'm just going to say this little piece about it real quick. And this is, fuck off, okay? It's a new offense. He's super young. All of you guys who are reporting about how bad he's playing right now were choking down his cock the entire time he played quarterback at Alabama. All right? So you know what? Maybe he isn't as good as you said, but you're the one who created him. You're the one who said he was going to be great. You're the one who's now going to call him a bust. You created it, right? What I saw out of him in Alabama was fucking incredible. And I'm not willing to give up on the guy just yet, just because he had 1 bad day at minicamp and played 5 bad games in the COVID season. I'm just not. Also, hey, coming off one of the most gruesome injuries ever. He was bleeding out of his ear because the pressure in his hip going out was so intense. Okay? So can we all fucking give this guy a break? Sorry, it grinds my fucking gears, man. This poor dude. But the NFL is going to be interesting this year. There's no way Rodgers takes a snap in Green Bay. I know all the things about who it's beneficial for and how both parties are just eventually going to have to like come to the conclusion that they play with each other. And I think I even said on the podcast a couple weeks ago, but man, nobody is letting him forget that 4th down decision. Nobody, man. Did you see what Brady said to him? Because they're playing like the Invitational or whatever with Phil and Brooks or DeChambeau, sorry. You know, Brady said at least you'll have a guy who'll let you go for it. And it's like, man, people just aren't letting him forget. And you know what? As an NFL fan, I think I don't want to let him forget. I don't want to let him forget because I'd love to see him somewhere else. Let's see it, man. Let's see Rodgers with like weapons and a defense. Let's see Rodgers with Jerry Jeudy. I mean, do you remember how fun it was when Peyton Manning first landed in Denver? And it was like just Demaryius Thomas and Julius Thomas and Eric Decker and like whew, the full deck of cards there for him offensively. And he just threw billions of touchdowns. I think he broke the single season record for touchdown passes. And he broke like all-time passer. I mean, he was just like, it was awesome, man. Those two, you're like 14 and 15. No, because 15 wasn't a good year for him, but like 13 and 14 in Denver. He like goes to the Super Bowl, they lose to Seattle, and then they go to the Super Bowl and he wins, but that year wasn't great, but the year before that was insane. Just those years that he had in Denver, they were just so awesome from an offensive standpoint. And I don't know if the answer for Rodgers go to Denver, but if he goes to Las Vegas, man, they got weapons in Vegas. Darren Waller, I think Josh Jacobs is good. Outside, Henry Ruggs is a good player. or he goes to Miami. Now that I've said all this shit about Tua, but if he went to Miami, it'd be pretty cool. But yeah, like go somewhere with weapons, man. Be pretty fucking awesome. Just like slinging it around. It's so funny. You know who's never on any of these lists? The Jets or the Giants. It's the biggest market. It's New York. It's New fucking York, and they're never on these guys' list. Although if I were Rodgers, I'd throw the Giants on my list pretty quickly. Easy division, lot of weapons. They got Daniel Jones, all those weapons. I'd be like, hey, I want to play in New York. Yeah, look at what they gave Daniel Jones. Defense is pretty good. Blake Martinez is awesome. Not on the list. I can't figure it out. Yeah, he wants to play in the West. That's what it is. That's all it is. Felt like a California team was on there like the Niners, but it's not happening anymore. Yeah, so I don't know where Rodgers lands, but man, it's just like when you're looking at it right now, it's like I can't see how they retain him. I just don't see how it works. I just don't. Yeah, like I don't know where it fits. He just has to hate it in Green Bay. That's an NFC thing too. Is Tampa going to win again anyway? Are they going to win the NFC anyway? I don't know if they'll win the Super Bowl again. Brady's so old, man. If he won another Super Bowl, fuck. That'd be impressive. The NFC's weird. No Breeze. And that division just seems like it's going to be owned by the Bucs, and then you go over into the Niners division, and I think the Niners are going to win that division this year. I don't know when the Seattle thing stops working. It's incredible what Pete Carroll's been able to do there, just considering the fact that they've had such minimal talent in the run game and on the offensive line. And the defense has not been that great. Like Jamal Adams is so underwhelming. And they don't ever do anything to address the defense, man. Like at some point Bobby Wagner's got to retire. That division is so fucking tough. And it just gets tougher. And, maybe the Rams win the division, which could be, I think if I had a huge group of people listening to this, Rams fans would always rip into me. But the only thing that I am going for the Rams is, against the Rams is, I should say, is that, like, I'm not sold on the Stafford thing quite yet. And maybe that's wrong of me. Stafford's an upgrade from Goff, sure, but that just to me isn't saying much. He's like a poor man's Alex Smith, which isn't a pretty situation. Love the Alex Smith, but it's a poor man's Alex Smith, and that's just not something that you want, man. Just because I just, like, if you're that conservative with the ball, if your arm's that small, if you're that incapable of reading defenses quickly enough, Goff, upgrading from him just doesn't mean much to me. I think you could trade for I think you could have traded for Garoppolo, and it'd have been an upgrade. Not a large one, but it would have been an upgrade. So I don't know. It just doesn't feel like, you're making any giant leap by moving on from him. Now, Stafford's had some huge numbers in Detroit. And Detroit's garbage, but Stafford's never won a playoff game. So let's let him win a playoff game before we all anoint this the greatest offense ever. Psyched for the NFC East. I know that that's a weird thing to say but it's just like such a wild card. And, kind of loving the idea of Dak Prescott. I know we talked about him a little bit on the fantasy pod, but loving like that maybe Dak can do something in Dallas, and then, also that maybe Fitzpatrick can lead this football team to something cool. The football team, man, they're just a quarterback away, right? They're right on the edge here. And I thought maybe they'd be players in the Rodgers sweepstakes. And that's another team for Rodgers. It's like, there's weapons, man. Scary Terry, Samuels, or what's that? Curtis Samuel. Yeah, I think he went there. Gibson, and all these guys that you've got on the offensive side. Logan Thomas. And on the defensive side of the ball, you got one of the best D lines. You got one of the better secondaries. They're filling in that linebacker position. Like, if you're Rodgers, why don't you want to go there? If you're Deshaun Watson, why don't you want to go there? I don't get it. It's a great football town, too. When the team's playing well, it's a great football town. If I were anybody who's a free agent, I'd be like, man, I want to, like, especially a high-profile guy, I'd be like, I want to go play in the NFC East. Division fucking sucks. Win a bunch of games there. Got a chance to make the playoffs. And if I were a quarterback, for sure, you could go out there and break a bunch of records. The Eagles' defense is going to be patchy at best, and so is the Dallas defense. I think they didn't even get Surtain. So you want to break records, come play in the East. I know it's cold, but get over it. What else is there in the NFL? The Steelers. The Najee Harris stuff is looking good, man. It looks like that guy just loves to practice football. It's a good sign. I'm not saying it's going to be transferable to wins, but man, that guy loves to practice football. Everything I read about this guy is like, oh man, he stayed to practice. The coach had to ask to go home. Good signs. Good signs. I love hearing stuff like that. I don't know why I like hearing shit like that. I don't know if it really amounts to anything. Either he's an idiot or he loves football, and he doesn't seem like an idiot. Seems like a very smart dude. But you just love hearing stuff like that out of your first round pick. Like, you want to know what this guy's been doing, dude? He's been reading other teams' playbooks for fun. It's like, holy fuck, what? It's like, yeah, dude. Najee Harris has been in a library reading the Ravens' 2008 defense. He thinks they're going to bring wrinkles back in this year. It's like, God, I love to hear that shit. Who is that guy? You just love it. Like, oh, this guy? Oh, the assistant coach who's in charge of him on the running back corps said he's been in the gym for 4 hours. What's he doing? Cardio. Yeah, dude's just like trying to get in game shape every day. It's like, fuck yeah. Oh, he's running ladders every day, dude, working on his foot skills. Also, we got him out there doing jugs after practice for 4 hours. I'm like, fuck, dude. Yes, I just love a football guy like that, dude. Just love hearing shit like that. Bathe me in tweets about how hard Najee Harris is working. I love it. I love it. Such great news. The Browns are going to be unbelievably good. They're going to win the division. I'm going to say it now. I think the Browns win the division. And it's not going to be because of Mayfield. It's going to be because that defense is so goddamn good and that offense has so many weapons. And I think for some reason we have this thing where like everyone just forgets who Nick Chubb is all the time. He's always in like these lower thirds of fantasy drafts. He's never talked about in these breaths with Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, who I don't know why we all care about him so much. He's never playing. And it's like, do we just like we always just forget about Nick Chubb, and that guy's just unbelievable. And then Baltimore looks really good, man. Whew. Baltimore's always good, though. Forget about it. They're like the Steelers, just like they're always good. Cincinnati's going to be better. So that division's going to be something to watch out for. And then when you look at like New England's division, and you go New England, and I know it's now Buffalo's division, but New England and Buffalo and Miami and whoever the fuck, the Jets, who are barely a team. I don't know if any of the New England stuff really moves the needle. The Judon signing is gone untalked about. And so I'm going to talk about it now. Matthew Judon is an animal. And New England picking him up is incredibly underrated. People forget that a lot of New England's defense sat out last year. And I've said it on the pod, and I'm going to say it all the way up into the season, because when New England goes 500, or when New England is pushing to make the playoffs this year, and everybody's like, where did this come from? This defense is super sick. It's super nasty. They're leading fantasy in points. You can point back to these moments in this podcast where I said New England's defense is going to be fucking nasty. And it's going to be a problem, even if they don't re-sign Gilmore. They're going to be good. And their offense is going to be so annoying. They're going to run that 2 tight end set with Hunter Henry and who's that other guy that they got from... I'm going to blank on his name, and it's never going to come to me, but the guy from Tennessee. And, they got outside guys like Nelson Aguilar, and I'm not huge on Aguilar, don't get me wrong, but they got more threats on the offensive end than they had last year. And you know what? They're going to be so annoying, man. They're going to be pesky, and they're going to give Buffalo super tough games, and they're going to give people out of conference, and especially out of the division, super tough games. God, I fucking hate New England. And their fans are going to be like, yep, man, Belichick, look, he's just dragging Cam Newton to the playoffs. It's going to be true. So, I don't think we see Mac Jones take too many snaps. And Buffalo's just going to be a juggernaut again, I think. There's no reason Buffalo doesn't get better. Josh Allen is going to improve. They've got more weapons there to put opposite of Steph Diggs, which is good. You need that, man. You need to just keep helping out because man, when it came down to it, they just couldn't get into shootouts with Kansas City. When it came down to it and you looked at it, you're just like, man, that Buffalo team, they just couldn't. You can't score with Kansas City. Doesn't matter how you break it down. You don't have it yet. But hopefully they just continue to stockpile weapons and continue to stockpile potential, and we'll see. But Buffalo is going to be good. Southern divisions in each side are so brutal to go over. The AFC South, one thing that I'm really excited for is to just kind of see Urban Meyer shut the haters up, man. Why is everybody like, hey, running back, it's this position that's, nobody wants to be a running back anymore because they get injured. When you draft a running back, you should try to make them a wide receiver. And then Urban Meyer does that. And everybody's like, what the fuck is he doing? Why would he waste a draft pick on ETN if he's just going to, give him 90% of his snaps from the wide receiver position? You want to know why? Because it's what you should do when you draft a running back. You should start working on his hands immediately because if he's not dual threat, you can't use him every down. And if you can't use him every down, drafting him high is a waste of time. Point blank, period. Done. If you draft a guy high, like they took ETN, and you can't throw to him, then it's not worth having him. It's not worth having him at the 30th pick in the draft. So what does he do? He says, yeah, you know what we're going to do? We're going to just run him in a bunch of receiver sets this offseason. He's a running back. He'll figure out how to run the ball, right? If we have good blocking, anybody can run. DeMarco Murray proved that. Give me all the DeMarco Murray defenders. I'll take them. If we have good blocking, prove that. We have good offense, prove that, right? It's transferable. You want to know what? We're going to teach this guy how to run routes in our offense. We're going to teach him how to catch the football properly. We're going to get that skill developed because then we can use him in way more of our offense. And I just believe that what Urban Meyer's doing is right. And I believe in Urban Meyer, and I might be on Meyer Island alone here. Tennessee should win that division. Julio Jones is on their team. Now, look, you're never going to meet a guy more anti picking up the 80-year-old wide receiver on a big contract than me. I think it's the dumbest move you can make. I actually, it goes on my list of dumb shit. It's like just so high up there, man. How are you doing this? How many times do we have to see this just not work? I know it worked for like Randy Moss, but it didn't really after he left New England. Where it's like, man, we need to mix it up on offense. We have Ryan Tannehill. Let's go get Julio Jones. What? Ryan Tannehill won a playoff game throwing for 57 yards. What? I don't think it was 57. It was like 120 yards or something. Now, Julio Jones goes and plays with Aaron Rodgers. I'll shit in my hand and then flush it down the toilet. But he goes to play with Ryan Tannehill. Like, I'll have a laxative to make me shit for that one. I don't know. Just doesn't scare me. And I get it. Julio's an animal, dude. Never gonna catch me saying that he's not. It's just like, I don't get that fucking, let's freak out about it. Sorry, I was a little bit everywhere there. It's just like trying to catch up on the sports that are happening. And, wow. There's just so much, and the NBA's been so good. But I'm not really I'm a recap guy. I like to sit here and do a recap, I guess. And I can't wait to bring you guys some of the fantasy stuff for football later. But I just kind of wanted to go over everything. It was a little recap pod. I want to close with this. Let's not forget that we all hate Skip Bayless, okay? And I did something for all of us. And I'm bringing you a little update from Bayless World because I had to watch a Skip Bayless clip because I know he's a Kawhi guy. And you know what? I was a little pig in shit for a little bit there when the Jazz were beating them and Skip Bayless was having to go on TV and talk about how his team was losing to maybe the smallest market in the NBA. And I heard him make a comment, guys, and it really did it for me. It solidified to me that Skip Bayless is losing or has lost all of his brain cells. His vocabulary is limited, guys. He said on TV, and I quote, "My guy is a leaper. He can jump and leap and make that shot over him." And this is in reference to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and passing up the final shot in Game 1 versus the Jazz. He said, quote, "My guy is a leaper. He's a leaper. He's an athlete." Dude, what the fuck? You get paid millions of dollars to call a guy a leaper? First of all, Kawhi Leonard, good, not great three-point shooter. I don't blame him for passing that shot up at the end of that game. As a matter of fact, he should. There was great defense. Jazz played great defense Game 1, and Bogdanovich gave him hell, and he's all over him on that final play. And if Kawhi pulls up, it's not going in. Kawhi's got an awkwardly flat shot. And you want to know what Shannon Sharpe said? Yeah, well, Kawhi's got a laser shot. And then Skip Bayless said, yeah, it's like a laser beam if you look at it. Yeah, I could have told you Kawhi Leonard's jump shot's flat 5 years ago, dude. What the fuck? You are so garbage at your job. And his argument is that Kawhi can jump, and he jumps high enough to shoot the ball over Bogdanovich. Guess what? Guess who else can jump too? Bogdanovich, dude. Might not be as high as Kawhi Leonard, but it's enough to bother the shot. Does he even watch basketball? Becomes the next question here. Because if he's just thinking about how flat of a shot Kawhi Leonard is, and because if he's talking about Kawhi Leonard jumping up higher than the other guy to shoot the jump shot, does he really watch the game? Can you watch basketball and come out and talk on TV and want to be respected with that opinion? It's got to be looked into, man. It has to be looked into. Does this guy have any concept of how to shoot a basketball and how winning basketball is played? Does he have any concept of how the jump shot works? Does he know who Kawhi Leonard is? Dude, I don't know if I know the answer to these questions, man. They're pretty open-ended. Because what he said is absolutely fucking ridiculous. He's a leaper. And don't worry, I didn't watch it on the Shannon and Skip YouTube page. I found some third party, dude. Can't give them any money. I can't stand them, man. And I don't want you guys going out and you can go watch the clips, please. You can go find clips and send them to me. I'd love it. But I don't need you guys going out liking his shit. His tweets are garbage. Don't give him love. Don't go follow him. And I don't blame Shannon Sharpe. If you're in the room that long with an idiot, you become one yourself. It's not his fault he's an idiot. He just has to work with one dude, and it rubs. It rubs off. And Skip's supposed to be the professional in that room. Shannon's supposed to be the other guy. Skip's supposed to be I've been in the industry for so long, I can say. And if I ever became really famous and Skip asked me to come on the show, I'd say no. Because it's not sports. And it's not sports television. It's garbage. It's like if Tucker Carlson asked me to be on his show for political talk, I'd be like, nah, dude. I'm not doing that, man. This isn't real. Just like Skip Bayless, he's not real, man. He's garbage. So stop supporting him. Stop liking his tweets. Stop retweeting him. Stop responding. Stop quote tweeting him. Sometimes the best, action is silence. The best reaction is no reaction at all. Or the best action is no action at all. Or whatever that quote is. However it goes, whatever it is, that's the response for Skip Bayless. We don't engage. We talk shit, and if he talks back, we still ignore him. We don't care. Because he said a guy is a leaper. Okay? A leaper. I'm busting my fucking ass out here. I love sports more than anything in the world. I'm hosting a podcast from my closet in my room. Okay? I want to be good, and I try to get better at this every day. And Skip Bayless is out there calling guys leapers. Puts me through the fucking roof, dude. And that's all for this week, man. Have a good one. Enjoy yourselves. Hopefully I can pump out maybe 2 or 3. I want to do a couple of interviews coming up, so keep your eyes out. And then, if you're still listening, thanks. I'll see you.